We had a little bite to eat. We've been introduced to each other. And now we are going to really talk a little bit about men. And fatherhood too. We can include singles, men, and fatherhood in this conversation. To get this done today, I'm going to present just a little overview of the African American man, because most of us will fit that description here. We'll have some interaction, and then we're going to have an open forum discussion. Now, what I call an open forum discussion is we're going to have a forum where you're free to say what you need to say, and what we say here, as we have already said, stays here, and we're going to use the rule of 2 feet. The rule of 2 feet says, if you don't like what you hear, you take your 2 feet and you can walk out the door. If you like what you hear, you can take your 2 feet, go out and get somebody else and bring them in here. Okay, we're going to welcome all comers. And we're not going to, feel bad about it. The rule of 2 feet is free. We're not going to judge you on that. Okay, and then we're going to have an opportunity for you to talk about topics that you want to bring up. I'm excited.
Amen.
And I appreciate you being here, knowing that whoever put this on for you, the Clayton Church of Christ, and all those in the back rooms, and all those in the shadows, and all those worked hard that you don't see sitting here, I really appreciate that, because it was out of their love.
Amen. Yes.
That's the love demonstrated.
Amen.
That they brought this to us. Now, there's a word I like to say that's been spoken about, because if you're going to change, not only do you have to know what you believe, you have to think about why you believe what you believe, or think about why you think the way you think.
Yes.
And in psychology, we call that metacognition. Metacognition. Metacognition is thinking about your thinking. And most psychologists will tell you that most people do not read that book. But the psychologists that tell you that most people don't read that book may have not read the book. That might have said, as a man thinketh, so is he. The same book that says, do not be conformed to this world, but be what?
Transformed.
Transformed. Now that's a change. Okay, that transformation by doing what? Renewing of your mind, renewing, I-N-G. That's not just from changing your status in the world to your status in your relationship with Christ. That's renewing. That's a continuing process. Okay, we got to look at that as a continuing process. Continuing to grow, continuing to mature. Okay? But, and also that book also says what you should direct your thinking in the direction that you should go. Think on these things, right? And it gives you instruction to think in that. So that's metacognition really in itself. So what we're going to do a little bit is say that, okay, we came here to grow. We came here to listen and be aware. That's the first thing, be aware. And find some space where we can make that transition. And then look at what we can have in the community or in our support system to support that change that we want to make. Okay, first of all, it's the awareness piece. Now, let me just talk about this awareness from the perspective of the African American male, if you will. If you're an African that come over in this country in the last year or so, you would not have the same background or the same heritage that the African American would have. Okay? Typically, the document says there were 35,000 average slaves brought over into this country a month. 35,000 a month. No more. That's probably the max. Okay? But by the end of the slave era, think about that, 35,000 a month. End of the slave era, 1865, emancipation, there were over 12 million slaves in this country. What I'm trying to tell you is there weren't 12 million that was brought here. but it was a business decision to buy a slave and to procreate mass rape on a culture for a business decision that was profitable and sanctioned by the state. Okay, you got to get that in your being. So you know that. I'm not saying that for an excuse, but I'm saying that because we said at the outset, why do I think the way I think? Okay, I know that my dad just celebrated 100 years birthday. And so I know my dad's grandfather was a slave. And so when I think about how my dad disciplined, that was passed down from his grandfather with the same intensity as the owner did his slaves. If you can hear what I'm saying. If you have a mother today that is given a compliment about her daughter, and the person might say, ma'am, your daughter is awesome. And she's got great grades. She's a leader in school. That's a person giving a compliment to a black woman. The same person is giving a compliment to someone that is not African American. The person who is not African American might say, isn't she growing up? Isn't she a great girl? She's really blossoming, coming into her own. The person that is an African American might say, I wish she was like that at home. I wish she could do a little more better than that. And what we don't understand is that language is passed down from the beginning, because if you exhorted somebody in the kitchen that was your daughter, and she was a slave and you were a slave, you did not want her to be too uppity, for she might have been knocked down. Right. So that's a protective factor when they talk about the responses that we're still giving to them. What else is it passing down? Forced rape just wasn't on the women. If you tell a man he must, well, I will tell you, I'm holding in my hand a bill of sale of a slave, 22 years old. He went for $1,859. To have and hold with the heirs that I bought this, and it says forever. Yes. Okay. Business decision. Okay. This boy was not bought just for picking cotton. Why do you think black males may have a stronger sex drive than other men? Why? I'm just asking a question. I'm very provocative when I do these things. So questions, you can answer them for yourself. Okay? So there are things that we don't know that we say and do that it is passed down. Socially, FDR came with the New Deal. The New Deal was to pick up everybody in the 20s. But by law, it excluded the migrant workers, which most folks of color were working in the fields. And listen to the narrative that I'm trying to give you. Okay? I'm explaining, not complaining. Because what we're going to do, we're going to talk about change when you hear what we finish talking. AFDC was for giving money to heads of house that were women. The day that they came and checked on the woman who was getting that that money, if there were male shoes in the house, that money would stop. So the brothers would run out the back door. Wow. Okay. Typically redefining what we know as family. Redefining the definition of family. World War I and World War II brought all colors of women into the workforce. Okay? Lower the wage. That negated the balance of power or respect or what you might have in your home as a natural cycle of things. Okay? Birth control pill. I can delay what I want to do. I'm my own woman. Have the black man kept up with these social changes? And then, on top of what I just told you, there is a social narrative about the African American male that is like no other. I won't tell you what that is. You can find out for yourself. All right, when we first started, we filled out a survey. It's called the ACE survey. Everybody in the audience filled out the ACE survey. And I took a poll of all the surveys without your names on them. And every survey had at least 2 adverse child experiences before the age of 18. What does that have to do with anything? Well, I will tell you, the Kaiser Permanente who put that survey together, and social workers are using that data right now in their social work, will tell you diabetes, high blood pressure, shorten your life, your poverty level will stay low, less chance of getting higher education. As you go up the ladder on these ACEs, if you have 3 or more, or 4, if you have heard a gunshot, if someone has shot somebody that you know, even if there was a divorce in your house, if there was domestic violence in your home, that is an adverse childhood experience that we experience. We have to know that this is something that we can't continue to perpetrate. Okay? I think most guys are well-meaning men, and they do what they have to. But sometimes we do and say things that is handed down to you, and we don't really realize where they come from. Okay? So we're talking about making a transformation. Before you can make a transformation, you have to have the information. So this information I just gave you, just a snippet of some things that you didn't have control over, and there's some things you did have some control over. Okay? Why do we look at women the way we look at them? Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you take that and think about it just for a moment. Because as you can see on the video we just saw, that there is a variety of attitudes and opinions about what society says when it comes to our men. Okay? And so what we have to do is have our own discussion. And good men coming together, being transparent, we can figure out, why don't we have friends? Why do we keep other guys at arm's distance? Why are our egos so fragile? Why don't we see ourselves more transparent than we should? These are valid questions for moving forward to not only the betterment of ourselves, to influence those that are under us. So I'll stop. Thank you. I'll stop here, and we're going to have an open forum discussion of what you saw and what you just heard. And please chime in and feel free to understand that this is a forum that what you say may help someone else. So don't just keep it to yourself and think that I'm the only one thinking this way. You must speak to have this type of open forum to work. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to go and share the mics, and you're welcome to speak to what you either heard or saw on the video. Thank you very much.